Let's talk about elections in France. France is heading towards a hung parliament with hectic parleys happening in Paris with regard to government formation. Left-wing coalition has emerged as the top contender for forming government after it bagged highest number of seats, followed by Macron's centrist alliance, with far-right Le Pen's National Rally coming third. The next report navigates through the pulls and pressures of what is going to happen in France in the coming days.
It seems France is heading towards a period of political uncertainty with a fractured mandate after 2 rounds of elections. French politicians have begun negotiations to form a government. French President Emmanuel Macron has asked outgoing Prime Minister Gabriel Attal to remain temporarily in office after he offered to quit following his party's performance in the polls. However, a member of France's LFI party opposed this decision.
In these circumstances, there can be no question that the retention of Gabriel Attal in Matignon will erase the vote of French people. It is a democratic issue and it is a duty for the president to call on the new Popular Front to government to respect the word, the vote and the result of the votes of the voters.
Meanwhile, the left-wing coalition known as the New Popular Front has emerged with the highest number of seats in the 577-seat assembly, securing 182 seats. The other major players include Macron's centrist alliance bagging 168 seats, Le Pen's National Rally winning 143 seats. In a day of hectic political developments, political figures from the hard-left France Unbowed Party, LFI, held a meeting to decide on a possible PM candidate after pulling a runoff upset against far-right rivals.
In theory, the Prime Minister should come from the ranks of the New Popular Front. Leave us a couple of hours for us to propose a name. But I think that's an imperative, a need as we can see an anti-democratic takeover coming from the President.
What comes next remains highly uncertain. The choice of France's future Prime Minister formally belongs to the country's President Emmanuel Macron, who is not legally bound by the election results. Though political custom dictates that the head of government be chosen from the ranks of the strongest political force or coalition. Due to the dual executive system, the president is elected separately by direct universal suffrage and operates as head of state. The constitution gives the president the power to appoint the prime minister, often known as the premier, who oversees the execution of legislation. The president also appoints the council of ministers or cabinet, which together with the Prime Minister is referred to as the government. How does cohabitation work? Now, as the opposition won majority, Macron to appoint a Prime Minister belonging to that new majority. In this cohabitation, the government would implement policies that diverge from the President's plan. What about Macron? The President's term runs until 2027. With no majority and no possibility to implement his own plans, Macron comes out weakened from the elections. In line with France's constitution, he still holds some powers over foreign policy, European affairs and defense, and is in charge of negotiating and ratifying international treaties. Yet today, both the far-right and the leftist coalition's views in these areas differ radically from Macron's approach and would likely be a subject of tension during a potential cohabitation. Bureau Report, DD India.
And to talk about the outcome of these very interesting elections, joining me is François Gauthier, senior French journalist. Bonsoir, monsieur. Now, how do you interpret the sharp reversal in the French elections? Far right moves to number 3rd from being the favourites.
Well, many people are sad for 3 reasons. The first reason is that Mr. Macron and his Prime Minister, Mr. Gabriel Attal, were useful, intelligent, nice people who were governing France. I mean, there were many problems, of course, but in a stable manner. And now France is going to face a lot of political uncertainty, economic backlash, because this coalition is very diverse, from the communists to the ecologists, to the rightists, to the centrists, who all come together against the Mrs. Le Pen far-right parties. So France is going to face a lot of difficulties. There have been riots also yesterday night, and we're expecting more troubles in France because the Muslim minority in France feel that they have many revendications. The second reason is that Mr. Macron's government is very friendly to India. Mr. Modi and Mr. Macron had forged a very strong friendship, and I think the fact that Mr. Modi was a guest of the 14th of July, French National Day, and Mr. Macron in turn was invited on the 26th of January in India. There was a really strong bond between the two leaders, and now the people who stand to form the next government, the next prime minister government, will not be as friendly to India as Mr. Macron was. So that's the second reason. The third reason, of course, is that things are a little upside down because, as I said, Mr. Macron was a very, very able gentleman. And the parties that have come up, there are many extremist people, more extremist than the far right, because after all, Mrs. Le Pen, I mean, whatever you can say about the political views, and some of us differ with her, we don't agree with some of her political views, but she's not, she doesn't kill any people, she's not a murderer. So the same accusation that were, carried against Mr. Modi by some of the French journalists who were in Delhi, I also carried against Mrs. Le Pen. So even though I don't agree with her, I mean, she's not as bad and as violent and as Nazi as some of the Western press and some of the Indian press have portrayed her. The fact that there are a lot of problems in France with immigrants, a lot of immigrants in France, is something that worries Frenchmen. I mean, not only Mrs. Le Pen.
Okay, and sir, given that no party has got a clear majority, it's a hung assembly as we're looking at it, what are then the possibilities of government formation from here on? The far left says that they're ready to form the government.
You see, it happened before once, when Mr. Mitterrand, who was a leftist, was the president of France, Mr. Chirac, who was a rightist, won the election and he became the prime minister. So there was what the French call cohabitation, cohabitation between the two. It was not easy, but somehow it went through. So the same thing is going to happen, I think. Mr. Gabriel Attal is an interim prime minister now, and eventually Mr. Macron will ask him to resign. And this coalition party, who again are so different, they, in normal time they would hate each other, they would stab each other in the back, and indeed in the long run they might stab each other in the back. They're going to have a prime minister, probably from one of the central rightist party, but this coalition is not going to be a stable government. So Mr. Macron is going to be a lame duck prime minister with a lame duck government, and France, which is the second most powerful nation in the EU, is going to suffer a lot. So, as a Frenchman, as a lover of India, defender of India, I feel sad for both reasons.
Right, and you mentioned EU. How does the fractured mandate impact France's position within EU and also the stability of the organization, the Union?
Yes, these have many implications, not only for the EU, where France is a major partner, but I think Mr. Macron has certain powers which allow him to keep a lead on as far as the EU is concerned. But if you look at the war in Ukraine, between Russia and Ukraine, this will definitely have implication, because Mr. Mélenchon, with the Communist Party leader, who's one of the major leaders of the coalition, is of course the pro-Russia, pro-communist leader. So he's not going to want France to be involved and to keep on, supporting Ukraine. So this is going to have far coalition, results. In terms of ecology, the French ecologists are against the nuclear power energy. So I'm looking at a very troubled future in the next 3 years in France.
Monsieur Gauthier, I appreciate you joining us on the News Hour, sharing your perspective.
My pleasure.